you good? Okay. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming. In accordance with the requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, PL 1975 announcement, I wish to announce that the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interests is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the School District of the Chatham's Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted in the Board Administrative Offices, sent to the clerks of the Chatham Borough and Chatham Township, the Library of the Chathams, the Chatham Courier, the Daily Record, the Star Ledger, and TAP. Do you want to take roll?
Sure. Ms. Ross.
Here.
Ms. Allen. Mr. DeSandro.
Here.
Ms. Kenny.
Here.
Mr. Ryan.
Here.
Mr. Smith. Ms. Weber.
Here.
Dr. Zhang.
Here.
Ms. Ciccarelli.
Here.
7 present and accounted for.
Perfect. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. If you're able, the flag is over here. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, perfect. Thanks, everybody, for coming out tonight. I don't have any further comments at this time. I do just want to make actually one quick announcement to all of our student athletes at the high school. They have been just killing it this season. So I don't have all of the specific statistics, but all of our winter sports are really doing amazing. And I just want to give a huge shout out to, they're not done yet, but huge shout out to all of them. On to our administrative reports. Dr. LaSousa?
Thank you, Ms. Ciccarelli. Just a few items here to kick off before we get to a presentation. First, 2 changes, just very quickly. Our next Board of Education meeting will take place at Chatham Middle School, so please note that. You can see we have the set behind us, but the next week of the next board meeting is the very week of the production. So we'll be at the middle school, and we'll send out a reminder and post that on the website. And then our April 22nd board meeting, we need to move to April 29th. And the reason for that is that the state released its budget calendar since the last meeting, and there's a window of time during which school districts must adopt their budget, and our April 22nd date falls outside of that window. So we need to move the next meeting to April 29th, and again, we'll update all of the calendars on the websites to reflect that. The second bullet here has to do with school board elections, and as I mentioned about the budget calendar, when we received the memo regarding the budget calendar, we also received notice that Governor Murphy had signed into law a bill back in January, mid-January, I think, that made an alteration to the current law around school district board elections and budget votes. And the short of it is that now a school district that elects to hold its board election in April will be treated the same way as a school district that elects to hold its board election in November. And that might seem like a non-news event, but let me just explain that it used to be, way back in the day, that all board elections in the state of New Jersey took place in April, and all school districts that were type 2 districts like us, that's the most common formation of district, but there are other districts like city districts and districts that might have a board of estimate. Most districts are type 2, and type 2 districts, not only did they have their election in April, but they also presented their budgets to the voters in April, and then the voters voted the budget up or down. And in 2012, Governor Christie at the time signed into law a bill that made a change and treated April different than or different from November elections. And the change was essentially that if a board decided to remain an April school district, an April board election in April, the board would continue to have to submit its budget rather, to the public for a vote. But if a board moved its election to November, it didn't have to do that so long as the budget remained within the 2% tax levy cap, inclusive of other adjustments that the state determined. So most districts decided to move to November because it meant that there was no longer a vote on the base budget. The only vote that would occur would be if the Board of Education adopted or put forward a separate proposal to increase the tax levy beyond 2%. And of course, this Board of Education just did that, and there was a separate vote that took place in November. So for the last 10 years, school districts that had their elections held in April were treated differently than school districts that had their elections in November, and that was by design. The new law that has just taken effect about a month ago means that April elections are treated in the same way as November elections. So this isn't a topic for lengthy discussion right now, but in board business, either tonight or at our next meeting or the subsequent meeting or future meetings, one of the things that this board could consider is moving the election back to April, and therefore moving the budget adoption back to April, and any proposal that would exceed the 2% tax levy would then take place in April, not November. And the reason that probably many boards of education will consider doing that is that when a separate proposal is put before the voters, it's better for the school district and the Board of Education and the municipal clerks to know the outcome of the vote before the next school year. Whereas if you take our case this current year, we put forward a proposal in November. Those proposals were approved, but those proposals now can't be implemented until we're more than halfway through the school year. So, of course, we're provisioning health benefits to a segment of our paraprofessional staff. That's just took effect March 1st, essentially. That's something that we would have known and been able to plan for and recruit and so on and so forth before the year began, had the vote been able to take place in April. So I'm just mentioning it because it's something that we were notified about since the last board meeting, and it's something that will probably require deliberation on the part of the board in the coming meetings and coming months. Next bullet has to do with the calendar 24-25. I've mentioned now a couple of times that our agreement with the Teachers Association, the collective bargaining agreement between the Board of Education and the association, calls for an additional work day for teaching staff. That's a day without students, a day devoted to professional development. That won't take effect until next 25-26 school year, or I'm sorry, 24-25 school year, so we don't have to worry about it this current year, but next year we do have to make it a calendar adjustment. And while we're doing that, something else that I've mentioned from time to time is that we surveyed all of the families in the district at the end of last year about the holidays they observe in their homes, and we found that we had a significant percentage, at least relative to other holidays observed, of families who observe Lunar New Year and Diwali. And so I just have a draft calendar for your consideration, but I think at some point we should have a discussion about whether we should incorporate those as school closure days in the course of the calendar. May not be next year because we've already adopted the calendar for next year. It's been in place for about a year, so some families have made plans and some staff have made plans. But if not adjusting the calendar for next school year, then as we're looking over the course of the next 2 months to adopt the 25-26 calendar, it's something that I will at least include in at least one or two of the versions so that you can think about that. And we can discuss that in committee and at future board meetings. Next up, longer list than usual, I apologize. We have been registering students for kindergarten since the end of January. We have 207 students registered as of now. We also, as you know, and we've been talking about for the past couple of months, have opened up the possibility of having students in third grade attend Lafayette Avenue School next school year. And since the last meeting, we've had the deadline come and go. We've been able to confirm that we'll have 65 total students, as of today, 65 total students attend Lafayette next year as third grade students. The effect of that is that we will free up one classroom at Washington Avenue School and another classroom at Southern Boulevard School. So those two classrooms can be reallocated to kindergarten. And with those two classrooms, plus the 9 that we're currently using in each of the, if you, 3 in each of the schools, 9 total this year, 2 more for next year would be 11. And if we have to get a little more creative than we normally might want to get, we can probably squeeze another classroom or 2 if we're in a dire situation. We believe we've arrived at a point where we can offer all families who are interested in it full-day kindergarten for next year. So we still have a couple of details to work out, and the board will have to have some conversations, including around formalizing or confirming the tuition amount. We're not at a place where we can do this for free at the current time. By moving sections to Lafayette, it's not a zero-sum game. So we still are going to need a couple of additional staff members at least to be able to pull off full-day kindergarten for everyone next year. So we have to determine the tuition amount, and we have to determine a couple of other details, I'll say, that could affect individual students in specific individual circumstances. But I do plan to notify the community and those who've registered for kindergarten that we will be offering full day for everyone within the next week or 2. And then the last item for me is that we have a special event planned for this Thursday. I've spoken about it before, but on the first day of school this year with our staff, we had a really special and moving presentation from a Holocaust survivor named Maud Dame. And Maud has been back to the district. She's coming back again Wednesday to talk to more high school students, but she'll be here for an evening presentation for parents and anyone else who would like to attend. I expect a decent-sized crowd of students who will come and hear her again or for the first time, and hopefully bring their parents with them. And that'll be this Thursday night at 7 o'clock right here. So if you're able to attend, we invite you. And then the last bullet is going to be just an update from our pre-K to third grade schools and their staff with Dr. Donahue, and this is just a touch point. So as I've mentioned, we're going to have, in preparation for the reconfiguration of the grade levels, one presentation in March, which will be focused on the K3 schools becoming K2 schools. Then in April, we'll take on Lafayette, and Cheryl Russo will be here to talk about the transformation of Lafayette from a grade 4-5 to a grade 3-4 school. And then in May, the CMS team will come and they will talk about all that they've been up to with respect to transforming CMS from grades 6 through 8 to grades 5 through 8. So before I turn it over to the folks who are here to present, I'll just answer any questions if I can about anything that I have mentioned so far.
Any questions?
I do.
Okay, go ahead.
My quick question on the calendar, I'm sorry, the April school board elections move. Is there any limitations to the board? Can it happen now? If you don't do it in a certain time, are there penalties? Is there any parameters that we need to be concerned of or aware of?
My reading of the law, and we can get legal guidance so that we're on completely solid footing, is that any change must be voted upon at least 85 days in advance of the next election. So in other words, you'd have to do it at least 3 months ahead of,
November.
I guess, November. The law also specifies that board member terms are shortened to comply with the calendar and not lengthened. So I believe that what would happen is for anyone who is, I believe that the first time you make the move, you have to have an election in November and then another one in April. And the people who would be up that following year, their term would move from ending December 31st to April 30th.
The next, okay. Okay, I got it. I might need to,
So people who would be up for next November 2025 would actually be up in April.
Correct.
but the crew this November is
Would stick.
regular.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, got it. You may have to remind me of that a few more times.
I believe so. I believe so, but we would get
Well,
guidance.
that's a nice little disclaimer. Everything I told you, I might be true, it might not be. Okay,
Peter to confirm that.
okay, that's great, thanks, I appreciate it. And the Mod Down event is going to be outstanding. I did have the privilege of hearing her speak during a teacher meeting, and she was outstanding. And there's so few Holocaust survivors, so if you can clear your calendar for any event, this might be the event to clear your calendar for. So I'm going to get here early to get a good seat, just in case there's a run on the 732 seats in the auditorium. Thanks, Ann.
Okay, perfect.
I have a
Anything else?
question.
Anybody have any? Go ahead.
Dr. D'Souza, do we have any solid numbers on how much it costs to run an election? Essentially, we'll be running an election every April. Presumably, the school district would have to pay for that. And even if candidates are unopposed, we would still have to run the election and pay for the staff, et cetera. Do we know how much that costs today?
That's correct. I don't know how much it costs today, and I have a recollection of what it cost back in 2012, but I don't know if my recollection is accurate, and that number certainly doesn't stand today. The thing that I do recall, though, from back in the day is that we at least are able to determine the hours of the election, and in many years that I remember, we began the voting at 2 p.m., which reduced the cost of the election, but it also made it safer for the schools because they only needed to cover an hour or two of the day in terms of people coming into the buildings and voting in the gyms. Whereas now, I think the polls typically open at 6 a.m., so we have a little more disruption in the schools than we do when we have a school vote.
And the new bill signed by Governor Murphy doesn't address any of that? Or we're just left on our own to try to figure that out?
Yes, as far as I know, there's no money attached, no funding attached to it.
And is mailing vote allowed?
Yes. I mean, I think it's treated the same way as all other elections.
Yinglu, could you repeat that? There's a weird echo.
Is the mailing vote allowed?
Mail-in.
Mail-in,
yes.
thank you.
Got it. That was my question. Yeah. All right, so we need to figure that out and find out what the cost is, and we'll discuss that, I guess, in committees. Okay, perfect.
And then the final item for me is a presentation from Dr. Donahue and the folks she has with her. Those are our principals. So we're going to have to head down, though, because the screen is going to
Okay.
be lowered.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I'm excited to be with you this evening to give a K-3 update. This started out as simply an overview about the reconfiguration plans for our K-3 schools, but we decided we would also take the opportunity to share with you a few reasons why these schools are so special. I'm happy tonight to have with me Dr. Crawford, who's the principal of Milton Avenue School, Mr. Fryer, who's the principal of Southern Boulevard, and unfortunately, Ms. Dudlow, who's the principal of Washington Avenue, had an unavoidable family conflict, but hopefully I can represent her thoughts for Washington Avenue accurately, and luckily we have Washington Avenue staff here representing everyone tonight. Go Wash. So our agenda for this evening, as I said, our focus really is to share with you how we are approaching reconfiguration for the 25-26 school year. I thought we would also take an opportunity to share one of the specific changes that will be occurring when we return to school in August of 24. And then at that point, I'll turn it over to the principals so they can share with you what's going on at Milton, SBS, and at Washington Avenue. So Mr. Fryer is going to get us kicked off with sharing how we are preparing for reconfiguration.
Good evening. I'm pleased to present about the collaborative efforts of our reconfiguration teams across each of the K-3 buildings. These teams are composed of dedicated representatives from every grade level, including specialists from special areas and members of our child study teams, alongside the administrative leaders. Throughout this year, these teams have been actively engaged in regularly scheduled meetings, fostering an environment of open communication and shared decision-making. This collective approach has ensured that the needs and perspectives of every stakeholder are carefully considered as we navigate through the reconfiguration process. In addition to our internal discussions, Dr. Donahue scheduled each school the opportunity to go visit other K-2 schools in the neighboring districts, including Florham Park, Mountainside, Morris Plains, and Morristown. These visits provided invaluable insights into some of those best practices that we're looking for, innovative approaches, and potential challenges that we might face as we go through our reconfiguration. During our site visits, we concentrated on 6 key areas to inform our reconfiguration teams. Instructional schedules, examining how instructional time is structured to best meet the needs of our K-2 students. Lunch recess schedules, assessing the organization of meal and playtime to ensure a smooth transition and enriching experience for all of our youngsters. Facilities, evaluating the suitability and functionality of our facilities to accommodate the unique needs of K-2 students and support effective teaching and learning. Outdoor spaces, analyzing the availability and design of outdoor areas to promote physical activity, exploration, and outdoor learning opportunities. Special events, exploring how special events and activities can be tailored to the developmental stage of a K-2 student to enhance their engagement as well as their enjoyment. And support beyond the school day, investigating options for after-school programs and resources that provide additional support and enrichment for K-2 students beyond the regular school day. These were the 6 areas that we really dove into with curricular leaders from all of those districts. So now I want to turn it over to Dr. Crawford. She's going to discuss some potential opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you. So from these visits, we were able to look at a couple of different things for our potential opportunities as we transition to be K-2 schools. We want to take a look at the schedules that we currently have. So with these schedules that we currently have, we want to think a little bit about kindergarten. We want to allow a little bit more student choice in our kindergarten schedule. Allow some time for positive peer interactions. Sometimes this is a time when students will meet some of their best friends or first friends. So what does that look like? Sometimes it's hard to do that in a curricular area. We want to be able to cultivate any conflict resolutions skills that these students have. You know, what happens when we both reach for the same toy, or we reach for the same, game, or we always want to be first in line. That's a big thing in kindergarten. We want to take a look at some of as lunch and recess. What can that look like? A little extended time for those kindergarten students to get their wiggles out, which is always a good thing. And then we want to look at some flex periods for first and second grade. How can we have these grades be a little bit more creative? So additional time outside, some project-based learning opportunities that could be cross-curricular. We are always looking at really good SEL activities and initiatives. And we also do some really good strategy groups so that we have students that might learn in a different way or might learn with different friends. And maybe those groups might look differently for each curricular area. Those enrichment activities that Mr. Fryer spoke about, we visited one group that had an artist in residency program, which is an amazing opportunity for students. We want to consider that. We want to look at maybe a spring concert for kindergarten because we love to hear our students sing. And it really cultivates their love of music, and then they get to be on this awesome stage when they're in high school, so maybe that can start as early as kindergarten. And then we want to look at our traditions. We love our traditions at our elementary schools. So what does a tradition look like at each grade level? And how can we revisit that, and what makes the most sense for each of the grade levels? Some other opportunities we're exploring, and again, we're exploring all of these. We're not saying we're jumping in feet first for all of them, but partnerships with other schools in SDOC, those connections. A lot of students like to come back and visit the school where they used to go or work with our other students. We want to look at maybe having some support for before-school academic programs. We're always hearing from our parents that K-2 kids are up early and ready to go to school. So maybe we can, grasp that opportunity for some good supports. And then our third grades have so many privileges in our current classrooms. They get chimes and chorus and all that stuff. Well, we can shift that to second grade. And those second grade students will then become, the head of the school, and they'll be able to step up as role models for all of those other students. So our next steps as we're considering our changes for 2025, 2026 is work with those, all of our administrative teams to look at schedules at the K-2. And those schedules can be, we bide for time. Everybody wants time with the kids, but we're going to look at those, look at our staffing needs. Professional development is very big, especially if we're looking at all of those initiatives. So what will our staff members need in order to be successful? Coordinate logistics for the move in the summer. As we know, our elementary teachers love their stuff. So we want to be able to bring all of our stuff to our new classrooms and make it just right for students. We want to prepare for a transition to full-day kindergarten. And then as all of that goes on, we want to maintain our communication with the community and as all of our progress moves forward. So I'm going to hand it over to Dr. Donahue, who's going to look ahead for next year.
Thank you so much. So when we do get to this coming fall, I keep saying fall even though we're back in school in August, but one thing that is definitely happening is that we will have revised progress reports, and this is for K-5, but since we're talking about our K-3 schools, I'm going to discuss the relevance there. The revision was necessitated because there are newly adopted New Jersey student learning standards for both English language arts and math. The structure of our progress reports will remain the same. Our progress reports are what we refer to as standards-based because they link back directly to the standards. All of the indicators will continue to reflect the New Jersey student learning standards. Teachers will still be able to offer comments in each trimester, and the scale of 1 to 4, with 4 exceeding grade level expectations, 3 meeting grade level expectations, 2 approaching, and 1 not meeting, those will remain the same. I'll be working with the Curriculum Instruction Committee as well as our supervisors of ELA and math and their content leads to make these changes. We'll present them to the Curriculum and Instruction Committee, and when we return to school, the revisions will be discussed with parents at PTO meetings in each of our buildings. So I'm going to share with you some of the specific changes that are very relevant for K-3, and I'm going to start with English Language Arts. Previously, when you would look at a report card or look at the standards, there were 4 subheadings for foundational skills, and they were reading, print concepts, phonological awareness, as well as word identification. And when the standards were revised, it was recognized that these foundational skills needed to be enhanced. And so as we go to approach rewriting and revising the progress reports based on the standards, there is what you will see a much greater focus on decoding and encoding. In teacher speak, that's how we break words down and then make them. We will also be focusing, per the standards, on morphology, which is how we analyze word parts and recognize words. We will also be focusing on how we reinforce awareness of our sounds in speech and how they link to letters. And one continued focus will be on fluency and comprehension. Another significant shift with the English Language Arts standards is previously there were not foundational writing skills. Those skills were just encompassed within reading, and it was recognized in the revision that foundational skills specific to writing are necessary for our young readers and writers. And that will look like is that there will be more focus in the report cards via the standards on sound letter basics, letter formation, spelling, elements of grammar, and syntax, which is what we refer to as the structure and formation of a sentence. Unlike English language arts, the changes to the math standards were not overly significant. The ones that are most relevant for K-3 is that measurement and data used to be, they were considered one domain, and these standards have required that they be broken into two, measurement and data literacy. Data literacy, they're referring to the skills that students need when they want to ask questions, collect information, analyze it, interpret it, and communicate about data. That sounds very high level. When we refer to data literacy in our K-3s, we really are talking about how they would analyze what they might see in a graph. There's also been a shift in establishing the progression towards solving word problems that involve money. And another significant shift is that the term fluency has been replaced in the math standards. There was an overwhelming sentiment that there was too great of an emphasis on accuracy and efficiency over speed. And so that is another change that you will see reflected in the progress reports as they are shared out. So at this point, I'd like to return it back to Dr. Crawford, and she's going to share briefly what makes Milton Avenue such a special place.
So Milton Avenue School, we like to call it the little school that makes a big difference, because we are a very small school, but we have wonderful staff, just like everybody in the SDOC, I will say. And so our enrollment, our total enrollment, it's actually now 306 students, because we have preschool, and preschool is a little bit of a revolving door. So we will get students as they turn 3 years old into the preschool. So we now have 55 preschool students, 56 kindergarten students, 66 first grade, and 69 second grade, 70 third grade. Our staff is 70, which seems very large, but all of those little friends in preschool need a lot of help. And so we have some wonderful paras that help us out quite a bit with our little friends. So what's a couple of things that makes Milton Avenue School stand out or a little bit different? We are lucky enough to have the Bridge program, which is a program that we coordinate with 8th grade students at Chatham Middle School. They come to our building once a month, and they have a big, huge playtime with all of our preschool students. We have some students that work with our friends one-to-one, and then they get to know them, and then they come back for field day. It's a really nice partnership. They can walk to us, and a lot of the students, as I said, might have been at Milton, so our teachers get to see former students, and they love to come back, and they love to spend some time with our kids. The other thing is our Veterans Memorial Walk. We have a wonderful Veterans Day committee. So we ask the community members to send in some pictures and stories about family members that are veterans, and we highlight them, and we put their picture on a little board, and we tell a little story about them. And then the students get to learn about the veterans that are been in our community. Not only that, but we do a candy drive where we send lots of candy to some of our veterans. We do Valentine's for veterans, and we have a really nice partnership with lots of veteran facilities in New Jersey and in Pennsylvania. And then another thing we do is lots of outreach. We do collections. This is one of a pajama collection that we did, and we partnered with Scholastic. So Scholastic bought a book for every pair of pajamas. So all the students that got pajamas got good night stories. And we also do other collections like food drives. We do some things for people who, some veterans that might need some hygiene products. And so we have a bunch of those programs that we have at Milton Avenue School. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Fryer so he can brag about Southern Boulevard.
Yes, Southern Boulevard is that big. It is a very large school. Excuse me. At SBS, the total enrollment right now stands at 383 students, distributed across the grades. Kindergarten currently has 73, first grade 97, second grade 109, third grade 104, and we have 75 dedicated staff to support all of the students. So at SBS, fostering community engagement through service projects is a foundational part of our mission. This slide highlights 3 of our notable initiatives: the Cougar Cares Cooler, the connection that we have with Bridges, and Hope Week. So the Cougar Cooler initiated last year with the support of a Chatham resident, Sharon Nooner. It demonstrates our commitment to minimizing waste while helping those in need. Students contribute unused packaged food during lunch, which is then refrigerated and collected weekly for distribution to the Chatham Food Distribution at the Methodist Church. Secondly, our longstanding partnership with Bridges, facilitated by third grade teacher Holly Isa and Chatham resident Lucy Malatesta, involves students assembling bag lunches for individuals facing food insecurity in neighboring cities. This hands-on activity, which includes decorating bags and writing uplifting notes, fosters empathy and civic responsibility among all of our students. And lastly, we have Hope Week. Hope Week is a month-long service project that we do at SBS. The New York Yankees began Hope Week in 2009, and this was now our 11th year continuing their program for community service. HOPE stands for Helping Others Persevere and Excel. So for the month of November, we request donations from the community. This past November, we requested change for UNICEF, new socks for for children and adults that are homeless, used crayons that get recycled and made into new crayons for hospitalized children, canned goods and non-perishables for Helping Hands of Chatham Food Pantry. On top of that, this year during a week in November, each student participated in a direct hands-on service project that illustrated the importance of giving back. So kindergartners, they created care kits that provide basic necessities for those in need in our local communities. The first graders, they created sun catchers and wrote notes, and they were sent to the elderly at our local nursing homes nearby. The second graders, they assembled sustainable bag lunches and continued with our Bridges outreach. And our third graders, they created busy bags. They had puzzles and games, and they were sent to children at the Goriab Center in Morristown. All of these initiatives not only benefit those in need, but also instill a sense of purpose and compassion in all of the students at Southern Boulevard. I am immensely proud of the impact that SBS continues to make, and I just couldn't be prouder. So that's a little snippet of Southern Boulevard. Thank you. I'm going to pass this back to Dr. Donahue.
As I said, I hope I can do this justice. I know Ms. Dudlow is passionate about Washington, and hopefully I represent their initiatives as a faculty and staff there. So Washington total enrollment right now is right at 295. In kindergarten, we have 68 students. First grade has 85. Second grade has 71, and our third graders total 72 at Washington. And our total staff is at 61. Washington definitely capitalizes on the fact that they are so centrally located, and they make it a point to be involved actively with the community. The slides that are represented here, you can see that students from Washington Avenue actually have the opportunity to go to Borough Hall and see what it's like to participate in politics at the borough level. They definitely enjoy their close proximity to ECLC. The third graders have a partnership with ECLC where they will walk over, visit. They will engage in peer activities with students at ACLC, and quite often they will do a craft, all to promote positive relationships. Our residents down at Garden Terrace greatly enjoy having Washington so close by. They go locally or frequently and will visit with the residents there. They'll entertain them, and it's always a highlight. As you may know, Garden Terrace is on the route for the Halloween parade, which is a beloved community event. And lastly, Washington involves themselves in Give Back, Give Thanks, whereby each grade level will pick a specific kindness initiative and follow through with it. That could look like making cards for elderly residents. It could look like composing or compiling hygiene kits for veterans. And it can also look like a food drive to support people who are food insecure. So hopefully our presentation tonight, you're walking away with a bit more information focused on how we are approaching the reconfiguration, the opportunities that we see for K2, how we're planning for it and involving many voices. Hopefully you've also gotten a glimpse as to what the progress reports will look like when we return to school in September. As I said, all PTOs will have meetings to help parents understand what they look like. Again, they are all rooted through the New Jersey Student Learning Standards. And finally, I am very happy that everyone had an opportunity to hear from the K3s. They do unbelievable work on a daily basis. Their faculty have incredible patience. You cannot do this job with tremendous dedication, a love of children and a love of learning. It's a challenging job, but hopefully you see that when you walk through the halls in our Chatham schools, this is where it starts. They don't just show up at Chatham High School magically ready to be high schoolers. It's a long road, and the foundation starts with our K3 schools. So thank you to all the teachers and the principals and everyone who supports us along the way. And if the board has any questions, we're happy to answer them. You would.
Okay, thank you so much for that amazing presentation. These kids do a lot for our community. Amazing.
Can I ask a question? I do.
Yes, you can ask a question.
And not to anyone in particular, except for I do have one for Dr. Donahue. Dr. Crawford, what did you mean? I understand the whole conflict resolution. When you say give students more choice in kindergarten, can you just give a 20-second example of what that looks like that's different than it is today?
Doesn't matter.
I don't care. Dr. Crawford mentioned it, that's why I was picking on her, but I don't care who answers it.
I'll answer.
I want Jean Albanese to answer that, in fact.
Free gym for all. So one of the things that we know about educating little people is that choice is important, and their voice in there, they need an opportunity to make decisions. And what we've seen in going into other K2 schools and what we know from our own research is if we are able to incorporate some free time where students are able to choose what they want to do, it sets them up for success in that they're doing something that they want to do, but quite often it's those play opportunities where, as Dr. Crawford alluded to, there is a conflict, and it can be something very small. It can be taking turns. I wanted to play with that. And it provides the students with an opportunity to, quote unquote, work it out on their own. Sometimes we can all tend to be hoverers, and when we are attending to academic needs, there always seems to be the pressure of time, like we need to make it through. I need to get through my lesson. But if we are able to incorporate more free choice and students are able to do what they want to do, it naturally provides those opportunities for them to learn how to resolve conflicts, big or small, as they occur. Recess, I feel like it's a little bit like speed dating. You know, they get out there, they can't decide what they want to do. If they know every day that they have this one point to look forward to, we really do believe that it will help cultivate the skills that, you know, are just quite frankly very necessary, not just in the classroom, but beyond.
Okay, great. And then also I had a question about the enrichment activities. And again, I don't need an answer tonight if you don't have one, but have we also worked with Work-Family Connection on how that may look when we reconfigure the grades?
So anything, not unlike, I'm glad Mr. A is here because he will often have parties or any one of the schools that have after-school enrichments. Students are always then able to go to work family, so the fact that they may require after-school care does not prohibit them from taking part in any after-school enrichment activities. But if your question is, would they provide academic support, any academic support that we are looking to provide, we would want to come from our own teachers.
Right. No, it was more the former, that we're working with them to ensure that no student is prohibited from participating in an activity.
Correct.
Because they also go to work
Because they
family.
require aftercare.
That's correct. That's correct. And real quick, and again, I don't need an answer on this tonight, but Marco, you had mentioned you're looking at facilities, playground equipment, things like that. And, when just make sure the board is aware, that in 3 years, you're going to need new playground equipment. In 5 years, you're going to need a new, widget. So we would just ask that we don't have a pile of money, but with proper planning, we can come up with the equipment. So I would just ask that as you're planning, just keep in mind that it might take a year or so to come up with funds to fund whatever it is that you think is the next, required thing. And my last question is, I promise this is directed at Dr. Donahue. The changes to the New Jersey learning standards, does that require or come along with professional development? I'm kind of pointing to the teachers here. So if we're putting another brick in their bag, what's coming out, or, how do the teachers then have to adapt, or it's seamless, they're just that great, and there's no, additional training required?
So not unlike the question that was raised about funding with elections, the answer is no. The state likes to give us new initiatives. I'm happy to say in this regard, much of what Chatham is doing, I would say compared to other districts, we are ahead of the curve. But as with any programs that we bring in, we do provide training. So this year, as you will recall from the beginning of the year, we're implementing foundations in grade 2. So we've had ongoing professional development for that throughout the year. We actually have our remaining sessions. We had one today. We're having one tomorrow with coaching with Heather Rocco and Dr. Lanza. So the state does not provide that, Jill, but we understand the need for, if we're going to ask teachers to roll something out, that they need the tools and resources to do so, and that will factor squarely into how we use our PD days when we return to school in August, and then again in October, and then the end of the year.
Okay, great. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you, Ann.
Yeah, for sure.
Can you hear me? Jill stole my question on student choice, but I have two others. When you're thinking about the composition of the kindergarten classes, are you going to be doing evaluations again of all the incoming students? And if so, is that July?
So that's a great question, and one of the things that the kindergarten team and BSI has been very adamant about is that how helpful it would be in developing our class lists. Many of our kindergartners that have not gone through our preschool program arrive unknown to us, and what we know about a class list is once it's developed, it stays. So our plan is, if I'm getting the date correctly, on May 30th, the plan is to do a half day for the K-3 schools, which would then avail all teaching staff, particularly kindergarten and BSI, to bring in our incoming kindergartners so that we could conduct very rough, and I want to say screenings, but it's really a get to know you. At that point, the principals would be able to do a nice orientation for the parents. And having taught kindergarten, I do know that, a 20-minute look-see with a child, it just helps you understand, what's their personality like? Are they having a hard time detaching from their mom or dad or caretaker? So that we have a little bit more information to go on when we go to develop those class lists. So that's the plan.
Great, and that maybe this will help answer the second question, and maybe you don't have an answer tonight, but are you seeing any uptick in ESL students compared to this year? Too early to tell.
You know, Susan, last year when we got to October, we had definitely noticed a significant pop. There's an unpredictability to it. The way we find out about an incoming student is there's a survey that triggers in Genesis, and because, as you know, registration in the school districts is ongoing, you really don't know. So my answer is there really is no pattern. This year we're holding steady, still under 30 for total ESL students in the district. I will say, though, that the majority of students that do come to us are 5th grade and under. We still have very minimal at the high school and the middle school, so it's something that we are looking towards. And I actually just had a very productive phone call with someone who would, back on the topic of professional development, be able to do an ongoing residency with us next year in the event that we continue to see any type of increases with those numbers.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Regarding the new standards for mathematics, you mentioned there's a shift from, and I don't know if I got this correctly, that's why I'm asking the question.
Sure.
So we have fluency, accuracy, and speed. Obviously, I'm good at the fluency and accuracy part. Is the weight shifting towards speed in the new standards?
It's actually shifting away. There was a time where, universally it was thought that you needed a fast retrieval of your facts. And, agreed, that's a very good thing. But we've also seen that the pressure of timing sometimes just sabotages the students. And so this shift intentionally away from the word fluency, it's the state's way of saying, like, let's just make sure they know the content. And if we're less focused on speed, hopefully it will help them be more efficient and like taking the pressure off of them.
Okay, so it's less focused on speed. I was
Correct.
worried about that part. Okay,
Yeah.
good. Thank you.
Anyone else? Any other questions? No? Okay, perfect. Thank you guys so much. That was amazing. Okay, moving on to the business administrator's report. Patricia?
Can you hear me? Okay. We're still working with the architects regarding the security vestibules, the summer roof projects, and the ROD grants. That's it.
Okay, perfect.
Sorry, Patricia, what was the update on the vestibules?
They're working with the architects.
We're still working with the architects.
Oh, still, okay. Did Peter give you a estimated time that he's not going to be still working with them and he'll have some?
He hasn't given me that information.
Okay, thank you.
I can jump in there. We met with the architects the week that school was closed, and we toured each of the buildings, went through the final kind of renditions of the plans. We had a couple of adjustments we wanted to make here and there. Most of the buildings are pretty straightforward and don't require a lot of additional construction. The two exceptions to that are Milton Avenue School, where we are going to have to coordinate some asbestos abatement in Dr. Crawford's office, and also take advantage of kind of the way the layout is, with the nurse's office having a door right there and Dr. Crawford having a door right in what would be basically the man trap or the vestibule. We have to do some reconfiguring and expanding of the nurse's office. And then at the middle school, because there is a stairwell that is a fire egress point right in the main entryway, there has to be more extensive work done there to essentially wall that off and create another point for the stairs to empty. So the middle school will take beyond the summer. It'll extend definitely into the fall because the construction is more involved, and we'll have to use the entrance close to the soccer field to the left of the building. We're still on the timeline that the architect will finalize the plans in the next couple of weeks, hopefully. We'll go out to bid probably May, and then we would get the work going as soon as school ends in June. That's the plan right now. And that the work would all be done, except for the middle school, by the time school starts up in August.
Wow. And the architect's confident they can turn that around, go out to bid in May and shovels in the ground by the end of June?
It's all dependent, of course, on the bidder and the contractor we get, but we're lumping all of the projects together with one, in one project so that it's one contractor that we're dealing with. And we're hoping that the concentration of the materials and of the site to be, one single project will entice enough bidders that we'll get a decent hit, and then they'll be able to mobilize quickly and work through the summer.
Okay, I guess keep us
Impressive.
posted, yeah.
Yeah.
If they can do it in
Well,
April,
listen,
that'd be
that would be
better,
great.
going out for bid. But it's up to them. All right, thanks.
Okay.
Thank you, Patricia.
Okay, moving on to our student liaison. Ahana, you have an update for us?
A couple of reminders. Okay. So, all of the CHS students and the incoming freshmen from CMS have completed their scheduling meetings for next year. So now the schedules are going to be created. Tomorrow we have a district choral festival. So Lafayette and middle school and high school chorus students are all going to be here actually, and going to participate in a joint festival together, which is going to be a really fun, interconnected event. And then this Friday, we have the PTO Senior Fashion Show, which is always a great event. And then next Monday through Thursday are the NJGPA, which are graduation proficiency assessments. That testing for all juniors next week. And then Wednesday, March 20th through Saturday, March 23rd, we have the spring musical Les Mis, which is shaping up to be really incredible, so go see it. And then a couple of shout outs. So you said you didn't have the specifics of the athletes. I do. So we have state champions in fencing for both girls and boys fencing, and in boys and girls swimming. And then girls basketball just won a sectional championship, so it's a really great season for our winter athletes. And then also our robotics team just won a county competition. So covered all the bases.
Ahana, could you please elaborate on your involvement in Les Mis?
Yeah, so I play Woman 4. Big role, really important. Ensemble is great though. We have a great time, lots of numbers. It's really fun to play a poor Parisian.
You might be Woman 4, but you said that you had a solo right on the top of that deck right there.
I do, right up there, right in the center. I'll look out into the audience for that one. So please, all attend.
Yeah, break a leg.
Yeah. What are the dates?
The 20th, she said the 20th
Oh,
to
the
the
20th.
23rd, yeah. Thank you so much for that update. Yes, the show is going to be amazing, and if you haven't gotten your tickets, do it stat, because we hear there's a rumor it may sell out. So it's going to be a good one for sure. And keep your eye out for Ahana up top. Okay, great. Any questions from anyone before we move on? Okay, perfect. Committee reports for personnel. Ms. Weber?
Yes, thank you. We met on February 7th, and we covered a few topics. We talked about the paraprofessionals, and I had mentioned, I think at the previous meeting, that thanks to the generous residents who approved one of the last second questions, we're starting to roll out the benefits to the paraprofessionals. The first phase was to the paras that have the most number of hours. There'll be a second phase probably closer to the summer, and then anybody else that trickles after that. So the paraprofessional benefits are for the paraprofessional themselves, and they can pay in for a child if they want to, not a spouse, but a child. The Personnel Department is also going through a benefits usage audit, just to make sure that everything is ticked and tied and squared away, and that we're not, spending money where we don't need to, or if there's maybe a better mousetrap out there. So Beth and her team are going to undergo that, which I'm sure will be extensive. Also, some eligibility verification. It is part of the whole audit, so thank you, Beth, in advance for taking that on. And I think that was the highlights. And also just about recruiting for the next school year. As we've mentioned, and Dr. LaSousa has mentioned several times over the years, how difficult it is to recruit. I remember when I first started on the board 10, 12, 15 years ago, Beth would go to the University of Delaware, TCNJ, and there'd be a line out the door, and now there's crickets. So we really have to come up with a better mousetrap in recruiting, and I'm hoping that Dr. LaSousa works with his cohorts to try and even make alternate route easier. Somehow we have to make teaching more attractive. I know the simple answer is, more money would certainly get more people in there, but that's challenging in itself. So, things like world languages, they're just not graduating world language teachers anymore. So in the very short future, we'll probably have online for world language classes. I think it's inevitable, and Chatham's lucky. We're able to still recruit because of Beth and all the teachers, but 10 years from now, it's going to look drastically different. So something has to change to entice teachers to become phenomenal teachers like we have here sitting in the audience. So that's the report for personnel.
Perfect. When's your next meeting?
Don't know.
Okay. The 20th?
Thank you, Beth.
20th. Okay, perfect. Curriculum, Ms. Ross?
Yes, we also met on February 7th. We had a preview of the presentation that was given here tonight. So we discussed a lot of what Dr. Donahue and the principals outlined for us, the changes to the New Jersey learning standards and the impact that it's going to have on the report cards for next year. We talked about the site visits that were made and the reconfiguration plans for the buildings. And then also we had an update on the third grade cohort that is moving to Lafayette. Like Dr. LaSousa said, 65 students are confirmed. 3 third grade teachers are also committed to move, 2 from SBS and 1 from Washington. And that is it. We have our next meeting March 20th.
Perfect, thank you. Finance and Facilities, Mr. Smith?
No. Finance and Facilities has not met. Our next meeting is a week from Wednesday.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. And Policy and Planning, Mr. Ryan?
Same update, policy and planning has not met. We meet the same day that finance and facilities meet.
Perfect. Okay, awesome, thank you. Anything from any liaison reports?
I do. I have a liaison report from CEF. They recently approved a grant for $7,600 for the high school TV film broadcast studio to upgrade pieces of equipment that students can use in the TV production classes. The good news is that this equipment is also being used to film and broadcast a lot of the events throughout the district, including the fashion show that's happening Friday night, the musical theater productions, graduation, and TEDx events. Is TEDx happening again this year?
Yes.
Awesome. All right. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you so much. Anything else? You have a borough update?
I do have a borough update, thank you.
Okay.
Great. So Councilman Strickland, who's in the audience here, and Dr. LaSousa and I met last Monday, and we have a regular cadence. We try and do that once a month, time permitting. And again, the desire is to keep an open line of communication to anything that impacts the municipality that might overlap with the school or vice versa. What we talked about often and always is security and traffic, because that's really a lot of the crossover with the municipalities. But so I appreciate Justin's time in meeting with us and helping facilitate anything that the school may need and being a liaison, for the school buildings. He's really the borough rep, but he also helps give us an eye into what the municipalities their challenges are and some of their struggles. So thank you, Justin, for meeting with us, and I look forward to continuing the relationship.
Excellent, thank you. Any other liaison reports? I guess that's it. Okay, perfect. I'd like to move the minutes from the February 5th public session and executive sessions. Chris Del Sandro, seconded. I'm not sure who has to who was not here, who has to abstain?
Grant has this.
Okay, perfect.
Me, right? Yes.
Okay. Ms. Allen, not here. Mr. Del Sandro?
Yes.
Ms. Kenny?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Smith? Abstain. Ms. Weber?
Yes.
Dr. Zhang?
Yes.
Ms. Ciccarelli?
Yes.
Minutes past 7:01.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, so this is going to be our first chance for public commentary. Notice of public comment, time limit. Hearing of the citizens during the public commentary section of the agenda is an opportunity for any member of the public to be heard about issues which are not topics scheduled for the current meeting. To help facilitate an orderly meeting and to permit all to be heard, speakers will be asked to limit their comments to a reasonable length of time. When you do go up for a public comment, if you would just wouldn't mind just signing in and stating your name, that would be great. Mhm.
Good evening. My name is Bill. I'm a current member of the SDOC Technology Department. I'm also a CHS alumni and lifelong Chatham Township resident. I'm here to talk to you briefly about a mistake that occurred during the recent negotiations of our contract between myself and another technology department member who unfortunately cannot be here tonight due to being under the weather. His name is Michael, and he's also a CHS alumni, and he currently has lived in Chatham Borough for 2 decades. Union members were told that we're going to receive a roughly 3.8% salary increase this year, the maximum rate allowed for members who are not on the guide. Over the next 4 years, our salary increase was to be the same ballpark as that. Unfortunately, our current salaries were misrepresented in the data used to negotiate. They were possibly assumed to be much higher than they actually are, the result that being the 2 of us who are currently now at the low end of the scale are only getting anywhere from 0.99% to 0.8% this year and every year for the next 4 years of the contract. Myself and Mike are not here to place blame or anything like that. There certainly is blame that could probably be going around. We just want to get this situation corrected, get what we are promised, and get what typically has occurred during past precedent with prior contracts. As it currently stands, our non-union tech department, some of the members will be making more money than us, despite some of them having less tenure as well as less education levels. Giving us what we are promised would only cost an extra $4,000 or so for both of us per year on a budget that's about $65 million. A drop in the bucket for a town like this, but for people like us, would certainly make a big difference. I want to stress that we're both long-term residents of the Chathams and consistently support the school budget referendum every year, and always have, to keep the school district of the Chathams the amazing district that it is. Unfortunately, this issue has gone unresolved for many months now, and working through our union reps has not gotten the issue resolved. Michael and I look forward to hopefully meet with the board president and/or personnel committee directly to go over our concerns and get this resolved. I want to thank you for your time, and thank you for everything you do on the board. I myself am current board member volunteer for our HOA committee, and I've been doing that for about 4 or 5 years. And I know what a thankless job it can be, the late nights, and people coming to you with issues. So I do want to thank you for that. It truly is a thankless job, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Hello. Hi, my name is Davina Tobin. I am the mother of a rising kindergartner, so I'm pleased to hear that you will be offering full day to all. I think you've indicated in the past that it's been 7,000. I'm just wondering at what point you'll be able to tell us what the charge will be for this year. I can appreciate that you don't know that right now, know the amount right now, but is there a cap? Is there a cap to how much you can increase it from 7,000 to this year? That's my question.
Would you mind just signing in right there on the sheet for us? That would be great, thanks. And we'll get to all the answers to the questions at the end of the public comment section. If there's anybody else that's looking to speak. Doesn't look like it. Okay. I'm going to punt that question over to Dr. LaSousa as far as the kindergarten tuition amount. When do you expect to have a number? I know that, we're still in discussions. Do you expect by the next board meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
So there is no cap. The board is able to charge whatever it wishes for full-day kindergarten, irrespective of the current charge. We have an executive session later on tonight where we'll be discussing some matters that could tie into kindergarten. As indicated, we have a finance committee meeting on the 13th, so I would say the absolute latest would be the 14th, 15th. And we know that we need to inform families of that quickly in case they're weighing other options and are planning on not sending their kids to us if the charge is too high.
Got it. Okay, perfect. So yeah, so 14th or 15th, we do have a public meeting on the 18th, so I'm sure at that point we'll have everything resolved and you can make a public statement about that, correct? Okay, great. Okay, so we're going to close this portion of the public comment section. We do have another section later on in the meeting, and we'll move on to our regular agenda. Huh? Oh. Okay, you want to answer that?
Yeah, I just.
Okay, go ahead.
Bill and Mike, I'm the chair of the, with no microphone, I'm the chair of the, it's going to go on in a second.
Uh-huh.
Excellent, thank you. So Bill, I'm going to have to take, I'm going to have to take that back as the chair of personnel and do a little more research. So I don't want you to think we didn't hear you. I just need to circle back and do a little bit more research on some of the items that you just talked about. Thanks for coming out. Sorry, Ann.
Should he wait to hear back from you? Do you want to respond to him, or do you want him to send you an email?
Oh, no, I'll respond to you. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Thank you. Okay. Moving on to our regular agenda for personnel.
Oh.
That would be you.
I'll get the hang of this.
That's okay.
A few years from now. Great. So I would like to move personnel items 1 through 18 on the regular agenda. We have an addition of 19 and 20, and we have amendments on 6 and 8. And Dr. LaSousa, if you could comment on item number 1.
Sure thing. Item number 1 is the retirement of Janet Kramer, who is our art teacher here at Lafayette Avenue School. When she emailed me to inform me of her retirement, she let me know that her first day was in January of 1967 at Southern Boulevard School. So, of course, I asked her why she couldn't just stick around 3 more years to make it an even 60, but she said it was time, and she's obviously been an institution here. Everyone in Chatham who's had kids go through the school system knows Janet Kramer. So I'd like to publicly thank her for all of her service, wish her the absolute best in retirement, and I think on behalf of everyone, we can all just stand in awe of a 57-year career in one place.
Absolutely amazing. I'm thinking maybe when she retires that we should line the circle with anybody who has heads left, because I have 2 in my attic that I'd be happy to get rid of. Because, I have seen some on the side of Route 24 that people have dumped in the past.
That'd be great.
I think we should. I think we should notify the entire community, anybody who has a head, drop it off, and we should line the entire driveway, and I bet we could fill it.
I have at least 1 left, if not 2.
All right, hang on to it.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, I will second the personnel agenda items.
Agenda items 1A1 through 18 and addendum 6, 8, 19, and 20. Ms. Ross?
Yes.
Ms. Allen? Mr. Del Sandro?
Yes.
Ms. Kenny?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Weber?
Yes.
Dr. Zhang?
Yes.
Ms. Ciccarelli?
Yes.
Agenda items passed 800, sorry.
Perfect, thank you. Moving on to Finance and Facilities. Mr. Smith?
I would like to make a motion to move B1 to B15 on the regular agenda to a vote. In addition to the Chatham Education Foundation donation for the broadcast studio that Ms. Ross mentioned, I'd like to also thank the Chatham Athletic Boosters for a donation of $40,000 to be used towards new barrier netting on Cougar Field. So we appreciate those donations.
Second. I second.
Okay. Dr. Zhang seconded.
Okay. All right, agenda items B1 through B15. Ms. Ross?
Yes.
Ms. Allen? Mr. Del Sandro?
Yes.
Ms. Kenny?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Weber?
Yes.
Dr. Zhang?
Yes.
Ms. Ciccarelli?
Yes.
Agenda items passed 800.
Perfect. Moving on to curriculum. Ms. Ross?
Yes, I'd like to move curriculum items C1 through C2 on the regular agenda.
Second.
Agenda items C1 through 2. Ms. Ross?
Yes.
Ms. Allen? Mr. Del Sandro?
Yes.
Ms. Kenny?
Yes.
Mr. Ryan?
Yes.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Weber?
Yes.
Dr. Zhang?
Yes.
Ms. Ciccarelli?
Yes.
Agenda items passed 800.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. That completes our regular agenda. Moving on to board business. Anything? I don't have anything specific. Anybody have anything else that they want?
Dr. D'Souza mentioned, do we want to discuss that tonight or table it?
Do you want to discuss it? Do you think we should discuss it tonight or table it?
Yeah, can we take a look at it? and then-
Yeah.
Bring it back for next time.
Okay.
Yeah, let's wait so we have a chance to look at it and then pick it up, if that's okay with everyone.
Yeah, totally. That's the only thing.
Anybody have anything else that they want to discuss? No? All set? Okay, perfect. This is our second opportunity for public commentary. As I stated, if you wouldn't mind just signing in and stating your name, that would be great. Mr. Heap, nothing?
Come
Come on.
Take it easy now.
You feeling okay?
Justin? Nothing, Justin?
All righty.
All right, okay. that's
Okay. Moving on. That concludes our public meeting. We will have an executive session. Action will not be taken.
Maybe taken.
Action may be taken. We don't know yet. Thank you, everyone, for coming, and thank you for your extended time. We know you have a long day, so everybody get home safely. Thank you so much.